Good morning. Today we're going to be reading through... Uh-oh, I'm already blurry. Oh no. What a wonderful start. Let me readjust my camera here. Today we're going to be reading through Chapter 5 of Part 2 of Sherlock Holmes, A Study in Crimson. It's really the first Sherlock Holmes story, because in the beginning of the story, they talk about how Sherlock Holmes and Watson met. But we're not just going to be reading the words. We're going to be stopping and talking about interesting vocabulary words and phrases. And we're doing this live, so if you're watching this with me right now, you can ask questions. Explain this, explain that. What does this mean? What does that mean? That's the whole point of this video, to talk about vocabulary words and phrases that could be interesting for you if you're an advanced learner of English. Afterwards, we will be practicing some of those interesting words. So don't go away once the video is finished, because we're going to practice some of those words, focusing on pronunciation, intonation, and accentuation. We'll bring in some volunteers from Discord if we have any, and we'll practice with real people working on accent reduction while also practicing some interesting vocabulary words. Pachu's here this morning. He's already volunteered. There's a link in the description to the Discord server where we bring in the volunteers. And when the video starts, the first two people who volunteer on the Discord server are the two people who will practice. So we already have one. We've got Pachu. Good morning, Pachu. And we've got Irma here. Irma says, I miss you. Well, I miss you too, Irma. Let's get started then with Chapter 5 of Part 2 of A Study in Scarlet. Oh, by the way, the title is The Avenging Angels. And when I saw that, I said, oh no, what does that mean, avenging? Avenge and revenge they're similar words, and I didn't know the difference. So I already looked that up. Revenge, R-E-V-E-N-G-E, that is more emotional. And avenge is when you feel you're justified. But they're both kind of the same thing. Revenge and avenge. And also, wait, let me pull up ChatGPT. No, it's gone because I restarted my computer. But I think it also said that avenge sounds more formal. All right, so let's see. Let's get started. Oh, just a reminder, because it's been a few weeks since I've read this. Let's just recap. That means like review, especially if you're talking about what happened in a story earlier. So let's recap the story. Like I said, this is probably the first Sherlock Holmes story, because it's the story about how Sherlock Holmes and his assistant Watson meet. So the story starts... Most of the Sherlock Holmes stories take place in the 1890s. But this story starts in the 1870s. So Sherlock Holmes and Watson are pretty young. Watson just finished becoming a doctor. And he was shipped to India because there was a war happening there. And his job was to, I guess, help the wounded soldiers in India. And while he was there, he even moved to Afghanistan, where there was a lot of fighting. And he received a very big wound. He was injured. He was hurt very badly. He was hurt so badly that the government sent him home. And I think what they said is he shattered his shoulder. Shatter is like break. That's the word that they use, shatter, when they described it. Shatter is like break. But the difference between break and shatter is that shatter has many, many little pieces. So, break the shoulder, that's one time. But shatter the shoulder, then you can imagine many, many, many pieces, like broken glass. Much worse than break, shatter. He shattered his shoulder. so his shoulder was in many pieces. So the government sent him home back to the UK to recover, but and he was supposed to recover for 1 year, and he had very little money. And because he had very little money, he decided to find a roommate. And that's how he met Sherlock Holmes. Somebody said, "Oh, I have a very strange friend I want to introduce you to, who needs a roommate." And not long after they met, they went to investigate their first murder. And the murder was, there was a man, they found a dead American in an abandoned house in London. So nobody lived in the house, it was abandoned. And this is an American, so he's not from the UK. That's kind of mysterious. But nobody knows why he's there, or if he died there, or what happened. So there was they I guess they did an investigation. They did a lot of things, and they had the names of the people. They knew the dead man's name. I forget what it was, but also he had an assistant, a secretary, and they found his name, and then he was dead. And this is really the story of the two Americans. Part 2 starts in Utah, or in the western United States, even earlier, the 1850s, when many people in the United States were moving west. They were literally walking west, which took many months and was very difficult to get to the western part of the U.S. And how to explain the rest of it? Well, let's just say that there was an older man in one of these groups. It was a very dangerous trip, and in one of these groups, by the time they got very close to the western United States, everyone in the group had died except for an older man and a little girl. And they were about to die. They were this close to dying because they were facing the desert with no water and no food. But then a large group of people came. And they said, we'll rescue you, but you have to join our religion and follow our religion. And they said, oh, yes, okay, we will. And so they did. But it turns out they didn't like the religion very much. And the religious leaders had wanted the girl to marry a particular boy. But she was in love with somebody else who was not part of the religion. And so the father and the girl escaped with the fiancé into I don't know where. And I think that's where we finished. They just escaped. So the girl is older now. She's a teenager. She's very beautiful. And instead of marrying the people who the religious leaders said she must marry, they escaped in the middle of the night. So I think that's where we are. Let's see. Let's see if I missed anything. Yes, no, there's this in this chapter, in the beginning of this chapter, they're still just escaping the first night of their escape from the little town. All night their course lay through intricate defiles and over regular and rock-strewn paths. I'm not sure what defile means here. Intricate. Let's ask ChatGPT. That's kind of weird. Intricate. I think desfile, that means like a line. Let's see. Yeah, a narrow passage. Because I think in Spanish, desfile is line. And defile, that's probably the French word, same word, line, but a little bit different. And it says a narrow passage, but it's very rare. It's a very rare word to see. But defile actually means to make something dirty or to contaminate something. So that's why here in this sentence, intricate defiles, it doesn't make any sense. because there is a common word, defile, which means to contaminate or make dirty. But here, it's something different. So, narrow passage. All night their course lay through intricate defiles and over irregular rock-strewn paths. When something is strewn, it means that there are many random places where you will find it. It's all over the place. Let me just get a better definition. That could be a practice word. I know we've never done strewn before. Scatter, spread things untidily over the surface. So if something, well, let's see what happens. It's probably better to look at a picture. Strewn. See, when I just type the word strewn into Google Images, what you see is messy things all over the place. Like the floor is strewn with books. S-T-R-E-W-N. Where here we've got the mountains or the hills are strewn with garbage. There's garbage all over the place. It's not really strewn because those things are in the air. Instead, I think it should be on the ground if it's strewn. Yeah, strewn with garbage, strewn with all kinds of things. So a rock-strewn path is it's a path, a little road. Let's see, rock-strewn path. Let's see if we get a picture on that. Yeah. That's pretty much what I imagined. Something like this. It's a path, a little road, but look at all the rocks everywhere in random places. That's a rock-strewn. This is an even better picture. Wait. This one here. Try to get that in. That's a rock-strewn path. All right. Well, that's a tough first sentence for this chapter. All night their course lay through intricate defiles and over irregular and rock-strewn paths. More than once they lost their way, but Hope's intimate knowledge of the mountains enabled them to regain track once more. Hope, Jefferson Hope, that's the name of the fiancé of the girl. So he's helping the father and the girl run away from this group of people. When morning broke, a scene of marvelous, though savage beauty, capped peaks hemmed them in, peeping over each other's shoulders to the far horizon. So steep were the rocky mountain banks. So you've got, here's an example of inversion. The mountain banks, let's say the mountain sides, not banks. The mountain sides were so steep. Okay, you could say that, that's fine. But the only way that you can put steep, so steep in the front, if you want to make that very important, very big, is to do an inversion, to do the question form. So the mountains were steep, the mountainsides were steep. Change that to a question. Were the mountainsides steep? And then you can put so steep in the front. So steep were the mountainsides. It's just a way of putting that phrase in the front to make it very powerful, to make it very big, to show emphasis. So steep were the mountain banks on either side of them that the larch and the pine seemed to be suspended over their heads, and to need only a gust of wind to come hurtling down upon them. Nor was the fear entirely an illusion, for the barren valley was thickly strewn with trees and boulders. We talked about the word barren before. Barren means nothing lives there, nothing can grow there, nothing can survive there. So if you say the valley was barren, it must be a desert or very close to a desert because it means nothing can live there. It's a very difficult place to live. No life. Used to be that women who could not produce babies were called barren. Don't say that now. They would consider that insulting. But in the past, that's what they used to call women who could not produce babies, barren. Now it's just used to talk about deserts mostly. And again, we have the word strewn. So the valley was strewn with rocks and trees. So it wasn't entirely barren if there were trees there. Well, it says the valley was thickly strewn with trees and boulders. Boulders are very big rocks. Pachu says this book has used a lot of inversions. I think most, I just have started, I remember a long time ago, Pachu, I remember you said, oh, I want to, tell me when there's an inversion. And then I forgot. But now I'm remembering. Years later, I'm remembering to say, oh, look, here's an inversion. So I don't think that it's just that this book is using a lot of inversions. I just think that before I wasn't really pointing it out to you too much because I would forget. And then, I don't know, for some reason, suddenly now I remember your request many years later. Nor was the fear entirely an illusion, for the barren valley was thickly strewn with trees and boulders which had fallen in a similar manner. Even as they passed, a great rock came thundering down with a hoarse rattle. So remember, we talked about the word horse before. This is not horse, Horse. That's not like the horse that you ride. This is Hoarse. And it's used almost exclusively to talk about your voice. So if you've been coughing a lot, then you'll have a hoarse voice. Or if you smoke cigarettes, maybe you'll have a hoarse voice. Or if you scream a lot, you might have a hoarse voice. So hoarse means like unnaturally deep voice. How do they use it here? A great rock came thundering down with a hoarse rattle. So here's a rattle. We've talked about that word many times. That's rattling. But, that's not very deep. Imagine a giant rock, a boulder, coming down the mountain. Boom, boom, boom. That's hoarse. That's very deep. That's unnaturally deep. Pachi says present participle and past participles, we need to connect to clauses. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Pachu. Can you explain that a little bit more, please? Even as they passed, a great rock came thundering down with a hoarse rattle, which woke the echoes of the silent gorges, and startled means surprised, the weary horses into a gallop. As the sun rose slowly above the eastern horizon, the caps of the great mountains lit up one after another like lamps at a festival, until they were all ruddy and glowing. I forget what that word ruddy means. Ruddy, it's usually used to talk about somebody's complexion, ruddy complexion. I think that comes from the same word as red, rud, but let's see. So maybe a ruddy complexion means very red, but let's see. I'm just guessing. A healthy red color. So if your face is ruddy, you have some red in your face, which makes you look healthy. But why were they using it here? As the sun rose above the eastern horizon, the caps of the great mountains lit up one after another like lamps at a festival. So as the sun is rising, there's a glow, kind of like a lamp glowing. And it was ruddy looking. So there was a red color to it, a red glow to it. It was ruddy. The magnificent spectacle cheered the hearts of the three fugitives and gave them fresh energy. At a wild torrent which swept out of the ravine, they called a halt. Halt means stop, so they decided to stop and watered their horses while they partook of a hasty breakfast. Torrent means storm. I'm not sure if this is literal here. At a wild torrent which swept out of the ravine, a ravine is like a valley, they called a halt. So maybe when they say a wild torrent, it means they got very excited and they were moving very fast out of the valley. And they decide, because they're running away from that crazy town. And they decided to stop and have breakfast, a very short, quick, hasty breakfast. Remember, hasty means fast, but in a bad way. Hasty is when you do something very quickly, because time is more important than anything. So if you do a hasty job, you probably don't do a good job, because you only care about time and not quality. If you have a hasty breakfast, that's not a very enjoyable breakfast. That means you eat the breakfast very quickly, or you make the breakfast very quickly because you don't have time. Lucy and her father would fain have rested longer, but Jefferson Hope was inexorable. They will be upon our track by this time, he said. Everything depends upon our speed. Once safe in Carson, we may rest for the remainder of our lives. So let's just look at a map for a minute. Just to show you where they are. Not very far, actually. I'm surprised that they managed to do this in one night. Salt Lake City is here. Oh, I don't see how they could do it. I'm surprised that they could go all night like that. And then, let's see. So they started in Salt Lake City. That's a very famous Mormon city. That's the religion that they had to join and then later escape. And now they're at Carson City, which is in Nevada. That's the capital of the state of Nevada. So they feel like they're safe once they arrive at Carson City. That's a very long... That's 426 miles, which is 686 kilometers. It's pretty far. During the whole day, they struggled on through the defiles, so the very narrow paths. And by evening, they calculated that they were more than 30 miles from their enemies. At nighttime, they chose the base of a beetling crag, where the rocks offered some protection from the chill wind, and there huddled together for warmth. Let me show you what huddling means. We got a lot of vocabulary in this chapter so far. Seems like we've already talked about the word huddle, because when I look it up, it's purple, which means I've already had this conversation before. But this is huddling. Huddle, huddling. So imagine it's very cold, so they huddled together for warmth. They were like in a circle together to stay warm. At nighttime, they chose the base of their enemies. At nighttime, they chose the base of a beetling crag. A crag is like a rock that sticks out, but beetling, I don't know. Beetling crag. Not sure what beetling is supposed to mean here. Let's ask ChatGPT. It's not really an important word, I'm sure of that. Well, it says that it means that it sticks out. So, I think this would be a good picture here. Let's take a look at this. Sticks out and shows out in a dramatic way. So the crag is the rock part, but it's actually sticking out. It's going out like this, and that's the beetling part. But I've never seen or used that word in my life. But then again, I've never lived around rock formations in this way. I guess, is this a beetling crag? I'm not sure. Seems to always be something sticking out, hanging over, like this. Oh, you can't see. Wait a minute. Like here. See how it goes out? I guess that's the beetling part. Pachi says, why do we use present participle to join sentences? What does it function? Can you give me an example, Pachi? Write something. Write an example for me. Before daybreak, however, they were up and on their way once more. They'd seen no signs of any pursuers, and Jefferson Hope began to think that they were fairly out of the reach of the terrible organization whose enmity they had incurred. He little knew how far the iron grasp could reach, or how soon it was to close upon them and crush them out, and crush them. So they had made a lot of progress. They were escaping, but they didn't really know how far the iron hand reached, like how far the power of the church reached. They didn't know exactly when they would be safe. About the middle of the second day, their flight, their scanty store of provisions. Scanty means not enough, not very much, not enough. Maybe we'll make that a word today. I'm going to put scanty. And provisions, that means like food for a long trip, or food and water for a long trip. So there's scanty provisions. There, not enough food and water was already very low. About the middle of the second day of their flight, their scanty store of provisions began to run out. This gave the hunter the little uneasiness, however, for there was game to be had among the mountains. Game is how you refer to animals who you are going to kill and then eat. So when he says there was game that they could eat, that means he could hunt for animals and they could eat the animals. The wild animals. And he had frequently before had to depend upon his rifle for the needs of life. Choosing a sheltered nook. We've talked about the word nook before. It means like a little place, a little enclosure. Nook. Let's see what kind of pictures we get with nook. Just to review. So, for example, look at this. This you would probably call a reading nook. So it's like a little space to read. kind of common in a lot of houses to have a little nook, a little space. I'm looking for one very common way, which I don't see here. Oh, here, maybe. I don't know if I would really call this a nook, but at least it's getting close to what I was looking for. This could be in the kitchen. There's usually a little place to eat, and that's called a breakfast nook. A little place to have breakfast. That's mostly how you see it, though, as a reading nook or a breakfast nook, or let's see, nooks and crannies. But when I think of the word nook, I always think of these. These are called English muffins. And they say that because what you do is you put butter on it, and because there are all these little places that catch the butter, it's extra delicious. And those are called nooks and crannies. These are the nooks. Kind of looks disgusting when you look at it up close. It looks a little bit gross. But it's very yummy. See, it looks like that. And you just put butter on there. Little nooks and crannies. I don't know what a cranny is. Okay, so they choosing a sheltered nook. So, he's walking on the side of a mountain or the side of mountains, and there's a little space, a little inward space, not a cave, just a little space like that reading nook. And that's where they decided to take shelter. Shelter means like protection. Choosing a sheltered nook, he piled together a few dried branches and made a blazing fire, at which his companions might warm themselves, for they were now nearly 5,000 feet above sea level. So that's, I guess, about maybe 1.6 thousand meters, something like that. 5,000 feet, right? 3 times 1.6, maybe 1.9 or 1.7 meters, 1.7 thousand meters. 1,700 meters. They were nearly 5,000 feet above sea level, and the air was bitter and keen. Having tethered the horses and bade Lucy adieu, so he said goodbye to Lucy, he threw his gun over his shoulder and set out in search of whatever chance might throw his way. So that he was going to look for food. He was going to look for some kind of animal to kill so that they would have food. Looking back, he saw the old man and the young girl crouching over the blazing fire. Crouching is when your body when your body is like this. Let's see. This is crouching. Crouching. So you can imagine if they're crouching over the fire. Well, let's see. We'll put crouching over the fire. Let's see what we get. So that's like this. Crouching. Looking back, he saw the old man and the young girl crouching over the blazing fire. Blazing means very strong, lots of flames. A blazing fire, a very big, strong fire. While the 3 animals stood motionless in the background, then the intervening rocks hid them from his view. He walked for a couple of miles through one ravine, after another, without success, though from the marks upon the bark of the tree and other indications he judged that there were numerous bears in the vicinity. At last, after 2 or 3 hours of fruitless search, if something is fruitless, it means no result. So a fruitless search means a search with no result. So for 2 or 3 hours, his result was fruitless. It had no fruit. There was no result. He was thinking of turning back. So turning back. He was thinking about returning to the old man and the girl. Turn back. Return. Very similar. He was thinking of turning back in despair, and despair means no hope. So he was thinking of returning. Oh, I give up. There's no food. Turning back in despair. Returning with no hope. With sadness. He was thinking of turning back in despair when, casting his eyes upwards, he saw a sight which sent a thrill of pleasure through his heart. On the edge of a jutting pinnacle, 300 or 400 feet above him, there stood a creature somewhat resembling a sheep in appearance, but armed with a pair of gigantic horns. The big horn, for so it was called, was acting probably as guardian over a flock, which were invisible to the hunter, but fortunately it was heading to the opposite direction and had not perceived him. So he looked up and he saw like a goat, like a mountain goat with big horns. And he figured, oh, probably this is the protector of the group of sheep. And he thought, yummy, delicious. But it's 500 feet. That's like maybe, I don't know, like 180 meters above him. 170. Lying upon his face, he rested his rifle upon a rock and took a long and steady aim before drawing the trigger. The animal sprang into the air, tottered for a moment upon the edge of the precipice, and then came crashing down to the valley beneath. So he took his gun from 500 feet below, about 170 meters, I guess, and then he killed the mountain goat, I guess. I don't know what it is. Ram? I think that's a ram. Let's see. I think what he killed was this. Which is a ram, R-A-M. The creature was too unwieldy to lift. To wield something means to hold something powerful. It's used a lot to talk about weapons. Wielding a gun. Holding a powerful gun. Wielding a sword. Holding a powerful sword. Wielding something is managing something very powerful. It's kind of about management, but usually it has something to do with holding it also. If something is unwieldy, and actually maybe that's a good word to practice today, unwieldy. So if wield means you can hold it in your hands and you can manage it, you can manipulate it. If something is unwieldy, it means it's too big, it's too powerful to hold, it's too difficult to manipulate. So if you say that, if I say John writes unwieldy sentences, that means his sentences have too much information. There's too many things happening. It's difficult to manage such a big sentence. If a truck, have you ever driven a large truck? Some people can do that. Some people can't. I'm very short. I'm very small. So it's difficult for me to drive a very large truck. I would say to me, a large truck is unwieldy. I can't manage it. It's too big, too powerful. It's unwieldy. Here it says the creature was too unwieldy to lift. So he had killed this giant animal and it fell down, but it was just too, there was no way to lift it. It was too large to bring home. So the hunter contented himself with cutting away one haunch. So he cut one of the legs as part of the flank. And with this trophy over his shoulder, he hastened to retrace his steps for the evening. He was already drawing in. He had hardly started, however, before he realized difficulty which faced him. In his eagerness, he had wandered far past the ravines which were known to him, and it was no easy matter to pick out which he had taken. So he had walked so far away from where he left the old man and the girl that he got lost. He forgot how to return. The valley in which he found himself divided and subdivided into many gorges. They're talking about gorges and ravines. So these are geographical features. Let's just take a look at them for a moment. Now, he's in a valley. I'm pretty sure you know what a valley is. But gorges and ravines are... Here, this actually... See, I don't really know what the difference is. Seems like a ravine is small and a gorge is much bigger. Let me zoom out again. Uh-oh. My mouse is being stubborn. All right, maybe now. Okay. So you see a gorge is probably much bigger, it seems like. And here's a ravine, much smaller. So he's in a valley, but there are many gorges and ravines, and now he's completely lost. He doesn't know where he is. He found food, but now he doesn't know how to get back. It was no easy matter to pick out the path which he had taken. The valley in which he had found himself divided and subdivided into many gorges, which were so like each other that it was impossible to distinguish one from the other. He followed one for a mile. That would take about 20 minutes to walk 1 mile. It's like 2 kilometers, I guess. Or more, until he came to a mountain torrent, which he was sure that he had never seen before. Convinced that he had taken the wrong turn, he tried another, but with the same result. Night was coming on rapidly, and it was almost dark before he had at last found himself in a defile which was familiar to him. Even then it was no easy matter to keep the right track, for the moon had not yet risen, and the high cliffs on either side made the obscurity more profound. Obscure means dark. So the moon was not yet in the sky, and the sun was going down, and the mountains were covering the light. So the mountains obscured the way. They made the way very dark. Weighed down with his burden, and weary from his exertions, he stumbled along, keeping up his heart by the reflection that every step brought him nearer to Lucy, and that he carried with him enough to ensure them food for the remainder of their journey. He had now come to the mouth of the very defile in which he had left them. Even in the darkness he could recognize the outline of the cliffs which bonded it. They must, he reflected, be awaiting him anxiously, for he had been absent nearly 5 hours. In the gladness of his heart, he put his hands to his mouth and made the glen re-echo to a loud "Halloo!" as a sign that he was coming. So he suddenly he recognizes where he is, and he knows he's getting very close to the old man and Lucy. So he shouts "Hello!" to let them know that he's in the area. He paused and listened for an answer. None came, save his own cry, which clattered up the dreary silent ravines and was borne back to his ears in countless repetitions. Again he shouted, even louder than before, and again no whisper came back from the friends whom he had left such a short time ago. A vague, nameless dread came over him, and he hurried onwards, frantically dropping the precious food in his agitation. So now he's panicking because nobody answered him. And he was so upset he even dropped the food as he went to go look for them. When he turned the corner, he came full in sight of the spot where the fire had been lit. There was still a glowing pile of wood ashes there, but it had evidently not been tended since his departure. The same dead silence still reigned round him. With his fears all changed to convictions, he hurried on. There was no living creature near the remains of the fire. Animals, man, maiden, all were gone. It was only too clear that some sudden and terrible disaster had occurred during his absence. The disaster which had embraced them all, and yet had left no traces behind it. Bewildered means very confused, and stunned means very surprised, very shocked. So confused and shocked, bewildered and stunned by this blow. Blow is a hit. That hit is abstract. It's the surprise and the confusion that the old man and Lucy are gone. Jefferson Hope felt his head spin round and had to lean upon his rifle to save himself from falling. He was essentially a man of action, however, and speedily recovered from his temporary impotence. Seizing, that means taking something in a very aggressive manner, seizing a half-consumed piece of wood from the smoldering fire, he blew it into a flame and proceeded, with its help, to examine the little camp. The ground was all stamped down by the feet of horses. Stamping is like very, very powerful movements of the foot onto the ground. Boom, boom, boom. So he lit a fire because now it's dark, and he could see the stamping of horses all over the camp. So there were obviously many horses had arrived, showing that a large party of mounted, and mounting means that you get on. So if you mount a horse, that is getting on top of a horse, to ride a horse. It's really just used for talking mostly about horses. It's also used to talk about animals having sex. One animal mounts another animal. But besides that, I don't think that you use mount. I mean, you can say mount a bicycle, but that's weird. It's technically true. You are mounting a bicycle. But usually you just say get on or get off. Same with horses. Unless you're always around horses, then maybe you'll say dismount and mount. But most of the time you get on or get off of a horse. Get on or get off of a bike. Mounted men. Have you ever heard of the Mounties, the Canadian police? Let's see. The Canadian Mounties. Let's see. Very famous. So maybe you recognize these guys. These are the Mounties. And they're called Mounties because they're always on top of a horse. They're always mounting a horse. So a group of mounted men had overtaken the fugitives, and the direction of their tracks proved that they had afterwards turned back to Salt Lake City. Had they carried back both of his companions with them? Jefferson Hope had almost persuaded himself that they must have done so, when his eye fell upon an object which made every nerve of his body tingle within him. So he's thinking, what happened? This group of people on horseback came and probably took them and returned them to Salt Lake City, where they had just escaped. But then he saw something that made him tingle. Tingling, I don't know, I think we've talked about that before. Let's see, tingle. What happens if we, oh no, it's the name of a character. What if we do tingling? Tingling is like I don't know how to describe it to you. It's like a very strange sensation, and it could feel like insects, like little things crawling on you. Usually you get that sensation when you feel very uncomfortable or surprised. You get a strange feeling. But I don't see any pictures that could really help us understand what tingling means. But it's like little pins and needles all over your skin. Usually you feel that when you're scared or surprised or nervous. So he thought, oh no, they're gone. But then his eyes fell upon an object which made every nerve in his body tingle within him. A little way on the side of the camp was a low-lying heap of reddish soil. Heap means pile. So there was a pile of red dirt, which had assuredly not been there before. There was no mistaking it for anything but a newly dug grave. Oh no. As the young hunter approached it, he perceived that a stick had been planted in it, with a sheet of paper stuck to the cleft fork of it. The inscription upon the paper was brief, but to the point. John Ferrier, formerly of Salt Lake City, died August 4th, 1860. The sturdy old man whom he had left so short a time before was gone. Then, and this was his epitaph. Jefferson Hope looked wildly around to see if there was a second grave, but there was no sign of one. Lucy had been carried back by the terrible pursuers to fulfill her original destiny by becoming one of the harem of the elder's son. A harem is when, if a man has more than one wife, that's called a harem. And I think that's an Arabic word. I think that comes from Arabic. So Lucy was going to join the harem of the leader's wife, the son of the leader's wife. As the young fellow realized the certainty of her fate and his own powerlessness to prevent it, he wished that he too was lying in the old farmer in the last silent resting place. So when he realized what was going to happen to her and how he could not save her, he wanted to die. He wanted to be just like the old farmer, dead in his grave. Again, however, his active spirit shook off the lethargy. Lethargy means feeling tired or sick. But I just want to define that. Lethargy. Lack of energy, state of tiredness. So he shook off the lethargy. He was feeling tired, defeated, sad for a moment, and then he shook it off. Again, however, his active spirit shook off the lethargy, which springs from despair. If there was nothing else left to him, he could at least devote his life to revenge. So it seems like an impossible task, but somehow he's going to get revenge on these people. He's going to get even with them. With indomitable patience and perseverance, Jefferson Hope possessed also a power of sustained vindictiveness. To be vindictive means to get revenge. It means to enjoy having revenge on people, to enjoy making people suffer. That's what vindictive is. Vindictive is enjoying hurting other people, being mean. So he's a very nice man. He's very patient. He never gives up, but he has one bad quality. He's vindictive. He enjoys causing other people pain if they hurt him. Jefferson Hope possessed also a power of sustained vindictiveness, which he may have learned from the Indians amongst whom he had lived. As he stood by the desolate fire, he felt that the only one thing which could assuage his grief would be a thorough and complete retribution. Retribution, again, is revenge, punishing the people who punished you or hurt you. Brought by his own hand upon his enemies, his strong will and untiring energy, should he determined, be devoted to that end. With a grim white face, he retraced his steps to where he had dropped the food, and having stirred up the smoldering fire, he cooked enough to last him for a few days. This he made up into a bundle, and, tired as he was, he set himself to walk back through the mountains upon the track of the avenging angels. For 5 days he toiled footsore. Toiled means work very hard, very difficult work. So just imagine they've been traveling this long time already. He's very tired, and now on foot he must go back and find Lucy. So he toiled footsore. His feet were very sore from walking, and it was very hard work up and down mountains, and weary through the defiles which he had already traversed on horseback. At night he flung himself down among the rocks and snatched a few hours of sleep. But before daybreak he was always well on his way. And on the 6th day he reached the Eagle Canyon, from which they had commenced their ill-fated flight. Fate means destiny, or outcome, or result. And when you put the word ill in front of certain adjectives, that means it was a very bad thing. It was a very bad way to do it, or something bad. So ill-fated means very bad result, very bad destiny, very bad outcome. Thence he could look down upon the home of the saints. Worn and exhausted, he leaned upon his rifle and shook his gaunt hand fiercely at the silent, widespread city beneath him. As he looked at it, he observed that there were flags in some of the principal streets and other signs of festivity. He was still speculating as to what it might mean when he heard the clatter of horses' hooves and saw a mounted man riding towards him. As he approached, he recognized him as a Mormon named Coper, to whom he had rendered services at different times. He therefore accosted him. That means he attacked him. And when he got up to him, with the object of finding out what Lucy Ferrier's fate had been. Wait a minute, let me look up. To me, the word accost means attack, but I don't think it means that here. Let's look. Oh, it means to approach someone, to come near someone, but in a very aggressive or a surprising way. That's probably why I was thinking that it means attack. Because it isn't nice or friendly, it's aggressive. I'm Jefferson Hope, he said. You remember me. The Mormon looked at him with an undisguised astonishment. So the guy was very surprised. Astonished means surprised. Indeed, it was difficult to recognize him in his tattered, unkempt wanderer with ghastly white face and fierce, wild eyes, the spruce young hunter of former days. So remember, he's a young, probably very good-looking man, but he was in the mountains for many months trying to make money. And then when he received a message that Lucy and her father had to escape, he came and got them, and then they were in the desert for a couple of weeks. So he looks horrible. He's very dirty. His clothes are torn. That's what, because the Mormon does know who he is, but he didn't recognize him until he said, I'm Jefferson Hope. And then the Mormon was astonished. You? It doesn't look like you. Having, however, at last satisfied himself as to the identity, the man's surprise changed to consternation. Consternation is like, you're bad, you're a bad person. Like, first he's surprised. That can't be Jefferson Hope. And then he realizes, okay, it is Jefferson Hope. And he says, well, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. You're bad. That's the consternation part. You're mad to come here, he cried. It's as much as my own life is worth to be seen talking with you. There's a warrant against you from the Holy Four for assisting the farriers away. So the man is angry. He's saying, you're crazy for coming here because they'll kill you. But I'm not talking to you. If they see me talking to you, they'll kill me too. I don't fear them or their warrant, Hope said earnestly. You must know something of this matter, Coper. I conjure you by everything you hold dear to answer a few questions. We've always been friends. For God's sakes, don't refuse to answer me. What is it? The Mormon asked uneasily. Be quick. The very rocks have ears and the trees eyes. What has become of Lucy Ferrier? She was married yesterday to young Drebber. Hold up, man. Hold up. You have no life left in you. Don't mind me, said Hope faintly. He was white to the very lips and had sunk down on the stone against which he had been leaning. Married, you say? Married yesterday. That's what those flags are for. And for on the endowment house. There was some word between the young Drebber and young Stangerson as to which was to have her. They'd both been in the party that followed them, and Stangerson had shot her father, which seemed to give him the best claim. But when they argued it out in council, Drebber's party was stronger. So I don't know if you remember this, but there was a choice. They said, no, you're not going to marry this non-Mormon guy. You're very beautiful. You can marry one of the leader's sons. So there's Drebber and Stangerson. Those are the two sons. But there was a fight about who would marry her, and one of them got shot. Then there was a council meeting, and then they decided who was, I don't know, it's a little bit confusing, but they decided who was going to marry her. But then they argued it out in council, and Drebber's party was the stronger. So the prophet gave her over to him. No one won't have her very long, though, for I saw death in her face yesterday. She's more like a ghost than a woman. Are you off, then? So, first of all, he's saying it doesn't matter really who married her, because she looks like she's about to die. She looks very sick. Maybe she's very sad because she was taken away from the man that she wanted to marry, and the man who raised her like a father was murdered right in front of her. So she's probably very sick and sad. And according to this man, Looks like she's about to die. And then the man says, "Are you off?" And I think we've talked about that before, that sometimes just the word off can mean, are you leaving? Are you going away? So that's a very common way, if you're going to leave, it's a very casual and common way to say, I'm leaving, I'm off. Just using the word off, to be off, verb to be plus off. So the man says, "Are you off?" which means, are you leaving? And Jefferson Hope answers, "Yes, I'm off. Yes, I'm leaving." We don't know where. I don't know if that means he's going to try to rescue her or he's running away. Probably he'll try to rescue her. Even though it's too late. She's already married. "Yes, I'm off," said Jefferson Hope, who had risen from his seat. His face might have been chiseled out of marble, so hard and set was its expression, while its eyes glowed with a baleful light. "Where are you going?" "Never mind," he said, and slinging his weapon over his shoulder, strode off. See, there again, you have off. Stride means walk. So if somebody walks off, they leave walking. If somebody drives off, they leave driving. Off doesn't always mean leave, but sometimes it could mean that. So he strode off. He walked off. He left by walking. Strode off down the gorge, and so away into the heart of the mountains, to the haunts of the wild beasts. Amongst them all there was none so fierce and so dangerous as himself. That's a weird sentence. Let me read that again. Amongst them all, I think there should be a comma there. Amongst them all, there was none so fierce and so dangerous as himself. Okay. The prediction of the Mormon was only too well fulfilled. Whether it was the terrible death of her father or the effects of the hateful marriage into which she had been forced, poor Lucy never held up her head again, but pined away. We've talked about pining away. That means when you want something and you're very sad, you want it with your heart. Oh, I want it so badly. I want it. That's pining away for something. So she could be pining away for her father, who's dead. Oh, I wish my father were here. That's pining away for her father. Or maybe her fiancé. Oh, I wish I could be with my fiancé. Pining away. Lucy never held up her head again, but pined away and died within a month. So she was very sad. She was forced to marry this boy, and she was very sad for her father and for her fiancé, and she just sat there for a month. Oh, I wish I could be with them. And finally she died. She died pining away. Her sottish husband, who had married her principally for the sake of John Ferrier's property, did not affect any great grief at his bereavement. But his other wives mourned over her and sat up with her night before the burial, as in the Mormon custom. They were grouped round the bier in the early hours of the morning, when, to their inexpressible fear and astonishment, the door flung open, and a savage-looking, weather-beaten man in tattered garments strode into the room. So again, there's the word stride. Stride, strode, stridden. That just means walked very confidently. He walked very confidently into the room. So he flung open the door and strode in, walked very confidently in. Without a glance or a word to the cowering women, cowering is, don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. He walked up to the white silent figure which had once contained the pure soul of Lucy Ferrier. Stooping over her, he pressed his lips reverently, that means respectfully, to her cold forehead, and then snatching up her hand, so he took her hand. He took the wedding ring from her finger. "She shall not be buried in that," he cried with a fierce snarl, and before an alarm could be raised. sprang down the stairs, and was gone. So strange and so brief was the episode that the watchers might have found it hard to believe it themselves or persuade other people of it, had it not been for the undeniable fact that the circlet of gold, which marked her as having been the bride, had disappeared. For some months, Jefferson Hope lingered, lingering. When were we just talking about that word linger the last time? It's been a while since I've been reading this. Somewhere I was talking about the word linger with someone. I don't know. But linger means like staying when you should go. Well, I think I was doing that in a class. I think I was talking to somebody about that word. So if something lingers, it means you want it to leave, or it's supposed to leave, or it should leave, but it doesn't leave. So imagine you're sick, and for a week you're coughing. And then after 1 week, you don't feel sick anymore, but you're still coughing. You would call that a lingering cough. That's a lingering cough. It should be gone because you're not sick anymore. So if he's lingering, that means he's staying in the city. He should leave. Or he's staying in the area. He should leave. It's a good idea for him to leave. But he's not leaving. He's staying. He's lingering. He should go, but he's not. For some months, Jefferson Hope lingered among the mountains, leading a strange wild life and nursing his heart. When you nurse something, you're making it feel better. So his heart is broken, and he's nursing it. You know how a nurse takes care of a patient, cleans them, feeds them, washes them? That's what the word nurse means. And babies, a room where a baby is called a nursery, because that's where you go to take care of the baby. So nursing something means taking care of something, helping something to get healthier. So he was nursing his heart. His heart was broken. His heart was sick, and he was trying to take care of it. And nursing in his heart the fierce desire for vengeance. Okay, no, he was not. He was nursing his desire. He wasn't nursing his heart. He wasn't saying, "Oh, my poor broken heart." He was nursing his desire for revenge. So he wanted to get them. I'll kill them. Yes, that's what I'll do. And he's nursing that feeling. He's helping that feeling get bigger and stronger. Uh-oh. Something bad is about to happen. Nursing the fierce desire for vengeance which possessed him, tales were told in the city of the weird figure which was seen prowling about the suburbs. Prowling means like looking around. Let me show you. I think we've talked about that word before, but you might think of prowling like hunting. Actually, when I look for pictures of the word prowling, you see you get you know how the cat hunts? That's prowling, looking for something. It could be used also. Let's see. Oh no, it's the name of a stupid comic book character. I hate that everything's the name of a product or a comic book character now, so it's impossible to find a real picture of anything anymore. But a prowler is a thief. You know, some thieves will use a gun, give me your money, but some thieves will walk very quietly, and they'll open a door when nobody's looking, and they'll take something. And that's a prowler. It's a different type of thief. Prowlers are quiet. They don't use weapons, usually. They just use quietness. That's a prowler. Tales were told. That's stories. Tales, stories. Tales were told in the city of a weird figure who was seen prowling about the suburbs, and which haunted the lonely mountain gorges. Once, a bullet whistled through Stangerson's window and flattened the wall within a foot of him. On another occasion, as Drebber passed under a cliff, a great boulder crashed down on him, and he only escaped the terrible death by throwing himself upon his face. The two young Mormons were not long in discovering the reason for these attempts upon their lives, and led repeated expeditions into the mountains in the hope of capturing or killing their enemy, but always without success. Then they adopted the precaution of never going out alone or after nightfall, and having their houses guarded. After a time they were able to relax these measures, for nothing was either heard or seen of their opponent, and they hoped that the time had cooled his vindictiveness. So remember, vindictive means I want to cause you pain for revenge, or I want to hurt you because I enjoy it. I'm not really satisfied with my definition of vindictive, so let's get a better definition. Yeah, having or showing a strong desire to hurt someone in return for a perceived wrong. So there is an idea of revenge in it. It's not that just that you enjoy hurting people. It's that you want to hurt someone because they did something to you. But when you use the word vindictive, it sort of means like an unnatural desire for hurting. When somebody does something wrong to you, of course you want revenge. But some people really want to hurt you if you do something wrong to them. They want to make you suffer. And that's being vindictive. It's a little unnecessary. It's a little too much, a little too extreme. Far from doing so, it had, if anything, augmented it. The hunter's mind was of a hard and unyielding nature. And the predominant unyielding means not giving up. And the predominant idea of revenge had taken such a complete possession of it that there was no room for any other emotion. He was, however, above all things practical, and he soon realized that even his iron constitution could not stand the incessant strain which he was putting upon it. Exposure and want of wholesome food were wearing him out. If he died like a dog among the mountains, what was to become of his revenge then? And yet such a death was sure to overtake him if he persisted. He felt that he was to play his enemy's game. He felt that was to play his enemy's game. So he reluctantly returned to the old Nevada mines, there to recruit his health and to amass money enough to allow him to pursue his object without privation. So all he thought about was getting revenge. And he said, okay, I need to become healthier and I need money. So he returned to the gold mines of Nevada to try to raise enough money and to regain his health so that he could get his revenge and be vindictive. His intention had been to be absent a year at the most, but a combination of unforeseen circumstances prevented his leaving the mines for nearly 5. So for 5 years he was working in the mines, but all he thought about was getting revenge. At the end of that time, however, his memory of his wrongs and his craving for revenge were quite as keen as on that memorable night when he had stood by John Ferrier's grave. So even though 5 years had passed, he still had the same desire for revenge. It hadn't changed. It was just as fresh as the night that he stood at John Ferrier's grave. Disguised and under an assumed name means a fake name. When you assume something, you take something for yourself. So he took his own name. He assumed a different name. He returned to Salt Lake City, careless what become of his own life as long as he obtained what he knew to be justice. There he found evil tidings awaiting him. Tidings means news. There he found evil news awaiting him. There had been a schism. That means a split or a break. There had been a schism among the chosen people a few months before, and some of the younger members of the church, having rebelled against the authority of the elders, and the result had been a secession. Secession means that they separate. Of a certain number of malcontents. Content means happy. Mal means not, or sick, or evil. So malcontent means very unhappy. A certain number of malcontents who had left Utah and become Gentiles. In this case, this means that they had dropped the religion. They're no longer Mormons. So there were a group of young people dissatisfied with the religion, and they said, "Oh, forget it, we're leaving." So a large group of young people left the religion. Among these had been Drebber and Stangerson, and no one knew whither they had gone. Rumor reported that Drebber had managed to convert a large part of his property into money and had departed a wealthy man, while his companion, Stangerson, was comparatively poor. There was no clue at all, however, as to their whereabouts. So a large group of people left the religion, left the city, went away from this new society that they were founding. And one of them, which one? Drebber, was able to sell a lot of property. And so he left with a lot of money. Before he left, he was able to secure a lot of money. But Stangerson was not so lucky. He didn't have any money when he left. And nobody knew where they went. Many a man, however vindictive, would have abandoned all thought of revenge in the face of such a difficulty, but Jefferson Hope never faltered for a moment. With the small confidence he possessed, eked out by such employment as he could pick up, he traveled from town to town through the United States in a quest for his enemies. Year passed into year. His black hair turned grizzled, but still he wandered on, a human bloodhound, with his mind wholly set up upon one object, upon which he had devoted his life. At last his perseverance was rewarded. Perseverance means never giving up, never stopping. If you persevere, you never give up, you never stop. And his perseverance was rewarded. His never giving up was rewarded. It was but a glance of a face in a window, but that one glance told him that Cleveland in Ohio possessed men whom he was in pursuit of. Pachi is asking about many a man. It's kind of an old-fashioned expression. You might not hear it very much in contemporary English. You can use the singular of a noun. These days, many a car has a video display, right? I don't know what I haven't owned a car in so many years. Cars have changed so much since I had one that they're very different. But now they have those screens, video screens. What are those called? Many a girl wants to get married. It's very old-fashioned sounding. People don't really... It just means girls, men, many men. But it's a different way of saying it. And I don't think it's very common anymore in contemporary English. You might hear it sometimes. And maybe we'll just take a look at a map so we can see... We're almost done with the chapter. Just a few more paragraphs. But don't go away because Pachi is going to join us, and we're going to practice some pronunciation and some of the interesting words that we talked about. But just to see how far he's traveled, we'll look at a map for a second. All right, so let's make a little route here. So they went from Salt Lake City, they were going to Carson City, whoops, and then somewhere, I don't know where Cleveland is, it's somewhere around here. Oh good, I was very close. How many kilometers is this? So that's 2,300 miles of walking he did, which is, and took many years. Because he wasn't just walking, he was stopping in towns looking for the two men he wanted to get revenge on. That's 4,000 kilometers. So this is where they are now. They're in Cleveland. So he went from Salt Lake City to Carson City, and then who knows how he got to Cleveland, but he walked all the way. He returned to his miserable lodgings with his plan of vengeance all arranged. It chanced, however, that Drebber, looking from his window, had recognized the vagrant in the street and had read murder in his eyes. So one of the guys recognized him. Jefferson Hope just happened to be just walking past a window, and he saw one of the guys in Cleveland. But Drebber recognized him also, and he saw the murder in his eyes. He hurried before a justice of the peace, accompanied by Stangerson, who had become his private secretary, and represented to him that they were in danger, so they went to a judge. When he saw this man, he panicked, and he went to a judge, like the police, and he said, "That man's going to kill me." Pachi says, I have to describe maps. What do you have to describe about maps? That evening, Jefferson Hope was taken into custody. So the judge ordered that Jefferson Hope be taken in. The police took him. And not being able to find sureties, was detained for some weeks. When at last he was liberated, it was only to find that Drebber's house was deserted, and that he and his secretary had departed for Europe. So what happened was, when they realized that Jefferson finally found him after this many years, he went to the police and said, "He's going to kill me." And so the police took him and put him in jail. And they can only hold you for so long if you haven't done anything. But in this case, times I guess were different back then. They held him for a couple of weeks. And in that time, Drebber and Stangerson escaped. They went to Europe. Again, the Avenger had been foiled. When something is foiled, that means it's ruined. Oh, my plans were foiled. My plans were ruined. So Jefferson Hope's plan of killing them was foiled. It was ruined. Funds were wanting, so he was out of money. He didn't have any more money. However, and for some time he had to return to work, saving every dollar for his approaching journey. At last, having collected enough to keep life in him, he departed for Europe and tracked his enemies from city to city, working his way in any menial capacity. Menial labor, that's like cleaning, like maybe cleaning the streets or cleaning clothes or some kind of very low job. That's menial labor. But never overtaking the fugitives. And when he reached St. Petersburg, they had departed for Paris. And when he followed them there, he learned that they had just set off for Copenhagen. And after the Danish capital, he was again a few days late, for they had journeyed on to London, where at last succeeded in running them into the earth. As to what occurred there, we cannot do better than quote the old hunter's own account as duly recorded in Dr. Watson's journal, in which we are already under such obligations. Okay, well, that was the end of chapter 5 of part 2 of A Study in Scarlet. But don't go away, because now Pachu is going to join us, and we're going to practice some of the vocabulary words that we talked about, but the focus will be on intonation, accentuation, and accent reduction, pronunciation. So if that's something you're interested in, then stick around, don't go away. But I have to take a few minutes break because I've got 4 vocabulary words here. Let's see what we've got. We've got strewn, scanty, unwieldy, and linger. So we'll practice these words focusing on pronunciation. And but I have to make a little exercise. That will take a few minutes. So I'm going to disappear. Don't go away. And when we come back, Pachu will join us and we'll practice talking, speaking. Now we're back. I forgot to turn on my microphone. Okay. So hopefully there will not be any technical difficulties today. I always seem to be beset by technical difficulties. Let's see if we can talk to Pachu. Hello, Pachu, are you
Sir,
there? Oh, hello.
hello, sir.
Okay, wonderful. How are you doing today, Pachu?
It's a great.
Great. Oh, that was very nice. That was perfect. Great. All right. Okay. Uh, all right, Pachu, have you seen any of these words before that we're talking about today? We've got. Let me see if I can. We've got strewn. I know we've talked about that word before, but I don't think we've ever practiced it. Have you seen that word before? Strewn
No, sir. No,
or scanty?
not. Yeah,
Okay.
not.
How about unwieldy?
This is also not.
Okay. How about linger?
Yeah.
None of them?
Linger. May I
Mhm.
came across, but I don't think I will know the meaning of this
Okay.
word. Yeah,
Okay.
it
Well,
is so. Yeah.
we'll practice all of them. So let's go first to strewn, and I think that I just want to refresh your memory with a picture. When you say when something is strewn with something else, it means it's everywhere. So I'm going to show you some pictures. Look how you can see how there are leaves all over the road here. So you can say the road is strewn with leaves. That means there are leaves everywhere in a very disorganized sort of way. Or you can see this, here's a beach. Look at all the garbage all over the beach. It's very disorganized, it's very ugly, and you can say the beach is strewn with garbage. That means there's garbage everywhere in a very disorganized
Y-
way. Go ahead, Pat.
Yes.
Did you want to say something?
No. Yes. Yes. It is okay.
Let's see if there are any other things that we can find. Oh, look at this. This is this guy is very messy. His his apartment is strewn with clothes and I don't know, clothes, garbage, everything. Okay, but also,
Yeah.
strewn can be nice also. Like you can say the garden was strewn with flowers. So it could be nice too.
Yeah. Yeah. It means disorganized. This no
Well,
proper way.
I think
Oh,
mostly the idea is you see it everywhere, but also yes, it could be disorganized. Could be disorganized.
yes.
But mostly the idea is you see a lot of it everywhere. Is that pretty clear? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. Let's. I hate these lists. How everything gets numbered and then you have to reformat it. Okay, there we go. So here's a sentence, which is the papers were strewn across the desk. The papers were strewn across the desk. Can you repeat that?
Okay. The paper is strewn with the dust. Can you make a bigger? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it should be
Okay.
bigger now. The papers were strewn across the desk.
Okay. The papers were strewn across the desk.
What does that mean, Pachu?
So the papers were disorganized everywhere inside the desk.
Not inside, across. So really on top. Not in the drawers, not inside, but on top. Are you there? Are you still there, Pachu? Uh-oh, Pachu's disappeared.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you
Yes.
go. Good. I'm
Yes.
scared that the same thing is going to happen that happened last time. that you couldn't hear me.
No,
Okay.
I think It is the internet problem. Sometimes we disappear and sometimes we come. It takes a bit, but yeah.
So really, when I read that sentence, the papers were strewn across the desk. I imagine, I don't know if you can see this picture yet on the screen, but I imagine something like this. Can you see that picture?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
yeah, clear.
exactly what I imagine. The papers were strewn across.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you say that sentence again? The papers were strewn across the desk.
The papers were strewn across the desk.
I'm going to put two words down here. And this goes back to the great problem. Okay, so I'm going to put one word here is peppers, number one. And that's one word. That's a word. And then we have papers. Can you see those two words on this? No, you can't. On the screen yet? Number one and number two. I'll put them in Discord for you because it might take a second before you actually see it.
Okay, now I'm seeing.
Okay, now you see it.
Yeah,
All right. How do you say number one?
yes. So it is peppers. I say it
Peppers.
peppers.
Pe-
Okay,
pe-
peppers.
peppers. Mm-hmm. Eh, eh. Is that a long sound? The duration of it, is it long or short? Peppers.
It's just short, I think.
Yeah, it's really
Peppers.
really short.
Peppers.
How do you say number two?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. Pachu, are you there? I think he's cut out for a minute. Pachu sometimes has a problem pronouncing a
Hello.
sound. Can you hear me? This is like great papers.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me? Pachu, do you hear me? Oh no. Hello?
Hello.
Oh no, not again. Wait, I'm going to close Discord and then reopen it. Maybe that will help. Let's see. Oops. Pachu, can you hear me? Oops. We're connecting. Pachu, do you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Oh no.
Hello, sir.
Hello? Can you hear me? Let's see. Well,
Hello.
uh my microphone is working. I don't know what's happening. Oh no.
Hello.
This is very bad. Okay.
Hello.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. This is well, I guess we're just going to have to keep going
Hello, sir.
because I don't think this is going to work out. But let's go through the whole thing anyway. The papers were strewn across the desk.
Hello.
I don't know why that happens. The funny thing is, I just heard a weird sound on my phone, and that's when there was a problem with the audio on Discord. I don't know how they're connected, but that's very strange. Okay, well, since we're just beginning, I think that we have to try to keep going through the whole thing. Okay, but I guess we can't use Pachu because he can't hear me. So I'll just talk
Hello.
you through the whole thing with unfortunately without Pachu because I don't know how to fix this problem. Okay, we've got the papers were strewn across the desk, and Pachu was having a problem with how the difference between the pronunciation of number one and number two. Number one.
Papers.
Can you hear me? You hear me?
Papers. Papers.
Paper.
Papers.
E. Do you hear me now?
Papers.
Like great.
Yes.
You can hear. Okay, you can hear me now. Good. All right. Like
Yes.
great. It's the same sound. It's the same sound. Great. Papers. It's
Yeah.
that same sound. Say number 2
Great.
again.
Great. Yes.
Papers.
The papers.
Okay.
Papers.
Pay. Pay. Try again.
Papers.
That's better. That's better. That does not sound like number 1.
The papers.
Peppers. Number 1 is peppers. Very short in duration, very clean, very simple. But number 2 is very dirty and it's longer. It's 2 sounds. A. Maybe 3. A.
Pay.
Pay. That was good. That's
Pay.
papers.
Okay, the papers.
Mm-hmm. So the papers were strewn across the desk.
Okay, the papers.
Mm-hmm. Were
The paper.
Say the whole sentence. The papers were strewn across the desk. Well, I guess Pachu cut out. So what we have to do, if we want to find the rhythm of the sentence, we have to identify the important words. And the important words, the content words here are papers and strewn and perhaps across and desk. Okay.
Hello,
so,
sir.
Yeah, okay, we're just building the rhythm of the sentence, Pachu. So we've got papers. That's one important sound. The papers. What is the next important sound, Pachu, after papers?
So is the papers is strewn.
Strewn. That's a very long in duration sound. So it's not strewn. It's strewn. Strewn. Can you say it like that?
Strewn.
Yeah, strewn.
It's strewn.
The papers were strewn across the desk.
The papers were strewn across the desk.
Mm-hmm. I guess, I don't know, maybe we should emphasize across. I think we could do that. Strewn across. No, let's not. Let's just go straight to desk. All right, Pachu. So we found the important sounds in the phrase. So now we can make a sound. We can make a sentence with a lot of rhythm to it, the typical English rhythm. The papers were strewn across the desk.
The papers were strewn across the desk.
Mm-hmm. So the big sounds are big. Pay, strewn, desk, and all the other sounds are very small. The papers were strewn across the desk.
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 Okay, Pachu, can you change that? Let's use let's change the sentence and use clothes and floor. How will you change that? Clothes and floor. Clothes and floor.
So the papers were closed?
No, clothes. I'll put it here because I don't think you can see this. Clothes and floor. Putting it in.
Okay.
So how will you, instead of the papers were strewn across the desk, let's use clothes and floor.
Okay. The clothes were strewn across the floor.
That's right. That's right. Now, that word clothes, you don't really pronounce the T, the TH. So it's really a Z sound, which is down here in your throat, which means it's going to be very long. Clothes.
Clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Clothes.
Yeah, if you just say close, that's might be very difficult to understand because really it's clothes.
It's clothes.
The clothes were strewn across the floor.
The clothes were strewn across the floor.
Don't try to pronounce the TH in clothes. It's never pronounced. So it's really pronounced just like CLOSE, like close the door. It sounds exactly the same.
Okay.
Can you try to say it again, but don't pronounce the TH?
Okay. The clothes.
No,
Yeah.
don't try to
The
pronounce
clothes.
TH. It's just close. Like CLOSE. There's no TH sound.
Okay. Okay. The clothes were strewn across the floor. Clothes.
The clothes were strewn across the floor. Let's change it again. Let's say books and bed.
The clothes. The
Books
clothes
and
strewn
bed.
across.
Books and bed. So change from clothes and floor to books and bed.
Okay. The books. The books were strewn across the bed.
That's right. The books were strewn across the bed.
The books were strewn across the bed.
How will you make a why question with the books were strewn across the bed?
So, why were the books strewn across the bed?
Now, strewn. Is that a very big sound or a little sound? Strewn.
Just strewn is a big,
Yeah,
big
so
sound.
make sure that it's big in your sentence. Why were the books strewn across the bed? Can you try to say that, Pachu, if you're still there? It seems like Pachu has gone silent again. Why were the books strewn across the bed? Okay, while we're waiting for Pachu to return, we'll give an answer. Let's say because she is very messy. Well, actually, let's talk about the intonation or the. Oh, Pachu, are you back? I thought I just heard you. No, that was
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Yeah, I think. Okay, we will do it. There is something internet. I
It's
think.
okay. Don't worry. Don't
But
worry.
okay.
You're fine.
We'll do
So,
it.
can you make the question again? Why books strewn across bed? Or maybe not. Okay, let's.
Why? Why were?
Why?
Okay.
Okay, and what is the important word in that question? Why were the books? What is something very important?
So important words are why
Okay.
books
Mhm.
is strewn
Uh-huh.
and bed.
So those are the words that you'll hear, and you won't really recognize the other sounds very much. So why were the becomes why were the. Why were the. And
Why were the? Why
why
were
were
the?
the. Why were the. Why were the. Can you say why were the books?
Why were the book?
So the next thing that you hear is the important word book. Why were the books? And then we have strewn.
Why
Go ahead.
why were the books
Why were the books strewn?
strewn?
Strewn must be very big. Why were the books strewn across the floor or across the bed?
Why? Okay, sir. So why were the book? Why the books is strewn across the bed? Why
Why?
were the books is strewn across the bed?
That's right. Why were the books strewn across the bed? Okay. And let's say because she's very messy.
Yes.
Can you give the answer, Pachu?
Hello.
Oh no. Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Oh,
All right. Uh, I
hello,
think I figured out the problem. There's something for some reason my phone is wanting to connect to be
hello,
my microphone or my audio. That's very strange. All right,
hello,
I'm just going to get my phone for a minute because I think that's the problem.
hello, hello.
Hello. Can you hear me? I think my phone is hijacking my audio for some reason. Let's see. What if I'm going to turn off my phone.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I figured out the
magic.
problem. I figured out the problem. My phone, for some reason, my phone in the other room is taking my microphone. It wants to be my microphone. I don't know why. It's very strange. But I've turned off my
Yeah,
phone.
it is magic,
It's
but it
weird.
is now perfect.
Yeah,
Now
I
it
don't
is
know why,
perfect.
but I think so. I think we fixed the problem. I think we'll be okay now. All right.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
it's loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so that's the problem. It was my phone. My phone is trying to take over my life. Okay. So, why
Yes.
so we said why were the books strewn across the bed? And the answer is because she is very messy. Can you say both of those sentences together? Pachu? All right. Well, we've got multiple problems today, but that's okay. We're going to push forward. Um, let's move on to the next word. Pacha will join us when he's back, when his internet is back. We have the word scanty, which means very small, not enough, insufficient. And then the example sentence that I have here is she gave a scanty explanation.
Hello, sir.
Pacha, we're moving on to the word scanty. That word scanty means not enough, insufficient. Okay, very little, not enough. Okay, so in this sentence, she gave a scanty explanation. What does that mean? What do you understand from that sentence? Now, Pachu's internet is gone too. So that means it was not a good explanation. It wasn't enough information. It was insufficient. I am not happy. I am not satisfied with the explanation because it wasn't enough. Okay. And then we have she gave a scanty explanation. We have to, if we want to improve our accent, we have to find the focus words. Okay. Those are the important words. They call them content words. And it could be a verb like gave, and perhaps the word scanty. Now, scanty has two syllables, so we have to focus on the syllable with all of the attention. Scanty. Which syllable has the focus? The first syllable or the second syllable? Scanty. It's the first syllable.
Hello, sir.
So, Pacho, are you back? We're just finding the important.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're just finding the important sounds of our
Yeah.
sentences.
And another problem is,
Yeah, we're having bad luck this
yeah.
morning, but that's okay. We'll just keep going. Okay. So, Pachu, in the word explanation, that's a very long word. It has many syllables. Explanation. Which syllable has all of the sound? Has all of the focus? Explanation. And Pachu's gone again. Explanation. It's the nay in explanation. Okay. So here's the rhythm. We found the rhythm of the sentence. All right. This is the big small big, small rhythm of English. If you're trying to improve your accent, this is what you must do. You must find this rhythm.
Yeah.
You emphasize the important sounds and you make
Yeah.
the little sounds smaller. Pachu, can you try to say the sentence just focusing on the important sounds? How does it sound? Can you try?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
See,
I guess not. I can hear the background. He's there.
she gave an scanty explanation.
Okay, she gave a. So that gave is very big, and she and are
She
very.
gave a
Go ahead.
she gave a scanty an explanation. She
Explanation.
gave a
Mhm. But make.
explanation.
I think that you should make gave somewhat bigger. So she gave a scanty explanation.
She gave a scanty explanation.
What does that mean, Pachu? She gave a scanty explanation.
Yeah. So, what is the scanty meaning?
Scan-
Scanty meaning?
Scanty means not enough, insufficient, very little, no good, because very small.
Okay. Okay, got it, sir. So she gave a very little or brief explanation.
And
Not
it's not good.
detailed,
You are
not
not
enough.
happy. You are not happy because it was very small. It wasn't enough. It was scanty. Oh, can you say the sentence again, Pachu, if you're there?
Yes, sir.
Try again. She gave a scanty explanation.
She gave a scanty explanation.
Okay. Can you change? Let's use the word meal. Meal. Meal.
Yes. Meal. Meal.
Meal is a very long, big sound. Meal.
Meal. Meal.
How will you change that sentence with the word meal?
She gave a scanty meal.
She gave a scanty meal. What does that mean?
Means she didn't give enough meal.
So not happy. You're not happy.
Yes, I'm not
Okay. Let's see.
happy.
Let's try another. Let's just very quickly try another sentence with scanty. Here is a new sentence, which is, he wore a scanty outfit in the cold. What does that mean?
So okay. He wore a scanty outfit in the cold.
He wore a scanty outfit in the cold.
He wore a scanty outfit in the cold.
Okay, what does that mean? What do you understand from that sentence? He wore a scanty outfit in the cold.
So he didn't wear enough outfit in the to prevent from the cold.
Yeah, it wasn't sufficient. It was not sufficient.
Yeah,
What are the important
it was
words
not.
in that sentence? Let's find the rhythm of the sentence. Oh, Pachi's gone again. The reason I was asking him to find the here he is.
Yes.
Pachu, is the word war, is that an important sound in our sentence? War.
Word, yes,
Okay.
sir. Word.
All right. So it must be very big, right? You have to say that in a very big way if you want it to sound good, right? So it's not wara, but wara.
Wara. Wara.
And this starts with an oo sound. So it's two sounds. It's oo or. Oo or.
Were. Were.
Mm-hmm. He wore a.
He wore a.
He wore a scanty.
He wore a scanty.
He wore a scanty outfit.
He wore a scanty outfit.
He wore a scanty outfit in the cold.
He wore a scanty outfit in the cold.
Can you change outfit for jacket?
Okay. So he wore a scanty jacket in the cold.
He wore a scanty jacket in the cold.
He
Okay.
wore a scanty jacket in the cold.
All right. How will you make a why question with that sentence?
Okay. So why did he wear a scanty jacket in the cold?
Yeah. And what are the important words in your question?
Why did he? Why did he?
Right.
Why
So
did
so
he?
why, that's a very important word, therefore it becomes very big. But did he, that's not important. So it sounds like this. Why did he?
Why did he? Why did he?
Why
Why did he?
why did he wear a?
Why did he wear
Why did he wear a scanty jacket in the cold?
a scanty jacket in the cold?
Try again.
Why did he wear a scanty jacket in the cold?
But remember that wear is big, so make it very big. Wear a. Not witta, but wear a. Why did he wear a?
Okay. So why did he wear a scanty jacket in the cold?
Mm-hmm. Why did he wear a scanty jacket in the cold?
Why did he wear a scanty jacket in the cold?
What could be our answer? I don't know the answer to that question. Can you think of an answer, Pachu?
Uh, so he he wore a scanty jacket in the cold because he was poor.
Okay, that's a good answer, I guess. Well, sad answer, but I guess it's good. Can you say that again though? I think that there was a try to concentrate on the big sounds when you say that. Don't don't go very don't go too quickly over the important sounds. Try it again. He wore a yeah, go ahead. Try again. He wore a scanty jacket.
Okay. So he wore a scanty jacket in the cold because he was poor.
Listen to this because the cause is important, but it sounds like this. Because he was because he was because he
Because he was
because he was poor.
because he was poor. Because he was poor.
Because he was
Because he was poor.
Mhm. All right. Well, let's take a look at the next word, which is unwieldy. Unwieldy. If something is unwieldy, it's too big. It's too difficult to manage. It's too big to manage. And it says here
Yes.
because of the size or shape. So if we look at some pictures, maybe you could say that this box is unwieldy. It's too big to manage. There must be some better pictures here. What else?
Okay.
Look, this could be unwieldy for me. For me, this is unwieldy. I can't lift that. I can't move that around. I'm not strong enough. It's unwieldy. It's too big, too heavy to manage, too big to manage. Do we have any other good
Yes.
pictures here? Oh, look at this.
No, it's
Look at this big fat.
yeah.
Look at this big fat thing. Can you lift that? Can you move that around? No, that's unwieldy. It's too big to manage. It's too big to manipulate.
Yes. Yes.
Does that make sense what unwieldy means?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Actually, yes.
So here's our sentence, our first sentence, which is the box was unwieldy and hard to lift.
Okay.
Can you say that sentence, Pachu? Do you see it?
Uh, yeah, it is not coming. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat in Discord.
Okay.
The box was unwieldy and hard to lift.
Yeah. The box was unwieldy and hard to lift.
Okay. What are the important words in that sentence? The box was unwieldy and hard to lift.
So is a box
Okay.
unwieldy and hard and lift. It is a four words. Yeah. Box unwieldy, hard and lift.
All right, so we've got box and then unwieldy. How many syllables does that word have? Unwieldy.
Is unwieldy, unwieldy,
Unwieldy.
well, three.
Which syllable? So there are three syllables. Unwieldy. Which syllable has
Yeah.
all of the sound?
Wheel.
Wheel. Okay, so this must be very big and very long. Unwieldy.
Unwieldy.
Wheel. Just make sure that you're trying, you have to push up your tongue like you're saying a Y. Like, yes. You feel how your tongue goes up when you say yes. You have to do
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
you have to do that in the middle of wheel. You have to push up your tongue. Unwieldy.
Unwieldy.
Oh,
Unwieldy.
yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually. The box was unwieldy.
The box was unwieldy.
We
Unwieldy.
So we've got box and wheel.
The box unwieldy.
The box
Unwieldy.
was unwieldy. Those are the two big sounds. The other sounds are not very easy to hear. The only important sounds are box and wheel. And what is the next important word, Pachu?
And is a hard
Okay.
lift.
Okay, so we've got hard and lift. Okay, so now we found our
Lift.
rhythm. That's our rhythm. We've got big, small rhythm now. The box was unwieldy and hard to lift.
The box was unwieldy and hard to lift.
That's right. Can you change? Let's use the word sofa. How will you change the sentence if we use the word sofa?
Okay, so the sofa was unwieldy and hard to lift.
Okay, and sofa, that has a big sound. Sofa. The sofa
Okay.
was unwieldy and hard to lift.
The sofa was unwieldy and hard to lift.
Okay, the sofa was unwieldy and hard to lift. Can you change that to suitcase?
Okay, so the suitcase was unwieldy and hard to lift.
Suitcase. Big sound there in the beginning. Suitcase.
The suitcase. The suitcase.
The suitcase was unwieldy and hard to lift.
The suitcase was unwieldy and hard to lift.
Okay, Pachu, how will you make a why question with that sentence?
So, why was the suitcase unwieldy and hard to lift?
And I think that you've already done the rhythm. I can hear the rhythm. Why was the? Why? So big why. That's a very important word in our question. Why? But was the is not. So it sounds like this. Why was the suitcase hard to lift?
Why was the suitcase hard to lift?
Hmm. And what is the answer? What answer can we give for that?
Yeah, the suitcase was hard to lift because there were lot of clothes, ಅಥವಾ yes,
Okay. Now
or
remember that
the materials.
there's a th in that word close, but you never pronounce it. It just sounds like close, like close the door. There's no th sound, so it's just close with no th.
Okay, so I have to remember that word when I pronouncing the clothes. Okay,
Yeah,
the clothes. Yeah,
yeah.
close,
No, but it's
clothes.
easier.
Yes. Okay.
That's much. I think it's almost impossible to say clothes. That's really hard to say. So nobody says
Yes.
it's just close, like close the door.
Okay, sir. Yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So so the suitcase was unwieldy and hard to lift because there were a lot of clothes inside. Well, that's a pretty long sentence.
Okay.
Can you say it?
Okay. The the sofa was unwieldy and hard to lift because there were a lot of clothes inside.
That's right. Okay, so the suitcase was unwieldy and hard to lift because there were a lot of clothes inside. Okay, let's move on to our final word for today, which is linger. That's a pretty common word, actually. And the definition for linger that we have is, let me adjust this. The definition that we have for linger is to stay longer than expected or to delay leaving. The way that I was explaining it, which I think is a good way, is uh, to stay when you're supposed to leave. when you're expecting something to leave, but it doesn't leave. That's lingering. Lingering is something should go, but it doesn't. So if you're sick for 1 week, oh, I'm so sick, but maybe you feel better and you're still coughing. I was sick last week. I don't feel sick anymore, but I'm still coughing. That is a lingering cough.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So linger means to stay when you should leave. Stay when you're supposed to go. Okay. So here's a
Yeah.
sentence which is she lingered at the door. She lingered at the door.
She lingered at the door.
What does that mean? She lingered at the door.
Yeah. She delayed uh, leaving the door.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. In Nepal, is that rude to stand in a door? That's considered rude to stand
Ye-
in a doorway.
Oh, yes, but why did the people do that?
Usually because they're unsure. Should I go or should I stay? Right. So that's why usually people do it. They're not sure if they should leave or stay.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, but I don't know actually. Yes.
But that's probably why they're using linger here, because to linger in a doorway, you shouldn't stand in the doorway. Either go in or go out, but don't stand there. That's rude because maybe other people want to leave or come in. So it's not a good place to stand. Does that make sense? Oh, Pachu's gone again. Okay, now we have to identify the important words. And I think that we only have, this is a very short sentence. We only have two important words in this sentence: linger and door. The other sounds are not
Hello, sir.
important. Pachu, how many syllables in lingered?
Lingered. Lingered. Yes, two.
Two syllables. Which
Ling.
syllable has all of the sound? Which syllable is important? Lingered.
Guard. Yes, lingered.
No,
The ling.
that would be lingered. Lingered. Is it lingered or lingered? Which is correct?
Okay, so is a lingered. The lean.
Ling.
Yeah, lean.
That is the important sound. That is the sound that we must highlight here. This becomes very important to the sentence. And door, that's just one syllable. So that's pretty easy. It's the whole word that we have to emphasize. So now we have
Yes,
our
sir.
big, small rhythm. She lingered at the door. Can you try that,
She
Pachu?
lingered at the door.
That's
Yeah.
right. She
She
lingered at the door.
yeah. She lingered at the door.
Pachu, can you change that sentence? Use window. How will you change that? Using the word window. Pachu's disappeared again. I'll change it for you. So we've got window. She lingered at the window. Now, window is two syllables. Window. So we just emphasize the win part, the strong syllable, not the not the not the small syllable. So it sounds like this. She lingered at the window. She lingered at the window. Big sounds become very big. Little sounds become very small. She lingered at the window. Okay. Let's try one more example using linger. I kind of like this example because it's a very good way of using linger. If you talk about smells, maybe somebody wears a perfume, and when that person leaves the room, you can still smell the perfume. This is a lingering scent. This is a lingering smell. So that word
Hello,
linger,
sir.
you're there. We're using a different example now, Pachu. What does that mean? The scent lingered in the room.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So, I do not
Okay, I'm going
see
to
the
put it.
sentence.
Yeah, I'll put it. I'm going to put it in the Discord chat for you because it would take a second on YouTube. The scent lingered in the room. What does that mean, Pachu?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you what is the meaning of
Okay.
that sentence?
So the scent. Yeah. This.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. The meaning is the scent. Yeah. The
Mhm.
scent delayed. It's a smell in the room.
Yeah, do you know
Linger
anybody?
means yeah the delayed.
Yeah, like maybe delayed. That may be another way of thinking about it.
Hello.
Not delayed, but delayed. Big sound and little sound. Delayed. Not delayed, but delayed.
Delayed.
You have to pay attention to the big sounds and the little sounds if you want to reduce your accent. That's very important. But Pachu, do you know anybody who maybe wears a strong perfume or oil? I know in India, probably it's the same in Nepal. They have a lot of different kinds of oils that you can use, right? The and do you know anybody who likes to use a lot of oil, like a lot of nice smelling oil on their body? No. Uh-oh.
Like I mean
Right.
yes.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
too bad we have some connection problems today. But so have you ever had that experience? Somebody is wearing a lot of perfume and then they leave the room. You can still smell them, right? Pancho answers yes. We have to continue. But I'm sure that he's saying yes right now if we could hear him. Okay. All right, so we have to identify the important words in the sentence. And I would say that the important words in this sentence are scent, which means smell. That's easy because it's one syllable. Then we
Yes.
have oh, Pachu's back. Then we have lingered.
Hello.
Pachu, which sound is important in the word lingered?
Yeah.
Which syllable is important in lingered?
Okay, so this is a lean part. Yeah,
Lean,
lean
le,
is, yeah.
lingered. Yeah, I guess it's you would include the N. And how about room? Is room also important?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So we've identified our big sounds, but we have a problem. Do you notice any problem with this, Pachu? Any kind of situation that may cause a problem?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Yes. So scent and the linger have two same strong sound.
Yeah,
So we have,
go ahead. Yeah, Pachu is saying that scent is a big strong sound, and ling is also a big strong sound, but English does not like that. English does not like two big sounds together. English likes big, small, big, small, big, small. So when you have this situation, one way to
yes.
fix it is to pause. So you can't say
Yes, sir.
scent lingered. Probably there should be a pause there. The scent lingered. You have to do that when you have two strong sounds coming up against each other. Can you say the whole sentence, Pachu?
The scent lingered in the room.
Yes, and then you can continue smushing words together after you pause. The scent lingered in the room. The scent lingered in the room. Okay. Pachu, can you change the sentence using the word smoke?
Okay. So the smoke lingered in the room.
Yeah, so imagine there's a little fire or something. The smoke doesn't leave immediately. It stays. It should go. You want it to go, but it stays. The smoke lingered in the room. Can you try to say the sentence
Yes.
again, Pachu?
The smoke lingered in the room.
And smoke is big. The smoke lingered in the room.
The smoke lingered in the room.
Okay. And Pachu, can you how will you make a why question with that sentence? Are you there, Pachu?
Why did why did the smoke linger in the room?
Why did the smoke, what, big small, why did the smoke linger in the room?
Why did the smoke linger in the room?
What could be our answer for that question, Pachu?
Okay, so the smoke lingered in the room uh, because it was heavier than the air.
Okay, because it was heavier than the air, that makes sense. That's a very scientific explanation, I suppose, of why the smoke lingered. Okay, right. So the smoke lingered in the room because smoke is heavier than air.
Mm. Yes, the smoke lingered in the room because it was heavier than the air.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that we're going to stop here for today. And thank you, Pachu, for
Thank you, sir.
participating. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And thank you for your comments. I think the next time, and I'm so glad that we were able to fix our technical difficulties this time around.
Yes,
We found the
yes,
source of the problem. It was my phone. All right. So
yes.
the next time will be on Saturday. Okay, so not tomorrow, but on Saturday we'll continue reading Sherlock Holmes at the same time. All right.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I'll see you then. Okay. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.